What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with the overall market. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention an 8.1% APY on invested cash. The offer ends very soon, in just a couple of weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So we're seeing some tickers like Tesla starting to pull back a bit, which is completely healthy after so much upside that we saw. And there's other tickers out there that are seeing some very, very similar moves. I first want to mention that for today, just know that we have Waller giving a speech at 10 a.m. Then we have the Economic Optimism Index, which is coming out, and it's going to be very minor at 10:10. And then after that, we have Barkin giving a speech. We have a bunch of bill auctions at 11:30, and then a bunch of Fed speakers after that, like Barkin and Kashkari. So it's mainly just Fed speakers with minor data for the day. So look for some volatility maybe because of that. But for the most part, it's quite minor. Shopify and Home Depot announced their earnings. Shopify did relatively well. They had good outlooks and nice growth when it comes to their overall sales. We actually saw their growth accelerates to about 26%, and free cash flow margins expand to about 19%, which is not bad whatsoever. The Home Depot also saw its sales improve, but it is warning us that its consumers are still very cautious about spending during times like these. So it's worth mentioning that EPS is at $3.67, which is above expectations with revenue at 40 billion. They had good earnings, but they are talking about how there could be economic factors that could affect them. They did end up cutting their full year forecast for comparable sales in August. Not bad though, because they still have nice growth overall. On top of this, I want to mention the fact that when it comes to their outlook, at least for the market did see some downside during the pre-market before some buyers are defending. The Home Depot, once again, they did pretty well for earnings, but just know that they are giving us some cautions. Besides that, just know that we have GM now making some headlines about how they have a lot of growth potential. We've also seen a lot of a lot of increases in their overall investments into the EV sector. They are trying to prioritize hybrid for now, but things could shift later on down the line. And Bitcoin's been running quite a bit, so we'll see how that goes. So, anyways, let's focus on the charts. SPY and Tesla are going to be in interesting places. So, Tesla has this 340 areas or supports. If that does not hold, I see us coming back down to about 336. And if that fails us, we're looking for 330 flat as our main support. If we end up losing even like 330, like the lows from yesterday, I do think there's potential for us to come down closer to where our 20 EMA is going to be, closer to like 320 to fill that gap. But somewhere in that 330 to 320 range, we could be looking for some buyers to defend it to try to help this bounce. There's a good chance, as long as we don't lose 320, this could attempt to bounce around that area. So just keep that in mind. Even if Tesla does dip more, we could still see buyers defend it. As far as SPY goes, just know this: SPY is kind of flat right here. It dipped down to about the 596s, which is very close to my target from yesterday during the pre-markets, but now there's buyers defending it. So I do anticipate it's going to try to push a little bit upon open, get close to 599 to 600. Then we could be looking for a rejection if we do make a lower high. So watch and see during this push. Do we push, make a lower high? Do we break the high to turn more bullish? We might make a lower high and start dipping as the most likely case. So look for a test of 599 to 600 before it starts potentially rejecting and continuing to dip. For ES, it's the same thing essentially. We are going to likely see ES attempt to push a little higher towards 6,040, maybe a little bit below that. And then if we break the high at 6,050, we could push higher. If we come short and we just come short of 6,040, we could push a bit, then reject and start dipping back down towards 6,020 and 6,000 flat. So look for a push and a dip as the most likely cases. For Nvda, we could attempt to push higher for 148 or so, and then we could be looking for a rejection, move back down. Look for a little bit more upside for 148, then we'll see what kind of reaction we get, so just keep that in mind. For Bitcoin, we're on a bit of a downtrend here. We could be dipping close to about 85,000 flats, if not 82,900 before it tries to bounce. So watch and see a little bit more downside before we get a big reaction. For NQ, we're kind of flat right here. We have 21,250 is our resistance. We have 21,000 flat as our support. We're kind of stuck in the middle. We could push a little bit higher for 21,250, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not. It is kind of consolidating in this range, so look for a little bit more upside, and there might be a rejection coming later on as the most likely case. For QQQ, it's the same thing. We're going to likely see an attempt to touch 515, maybe a little bit below that, and we'll see if we get a rejection. If we do reject, we could be dipping back down for the 511 area. So watch for that very carefully. Apple is pushing a bit. It might try to push for the 225 area or above. We were talking about how it loves to bounce off 220. So I was expecting some buyers to try to push it back up to about the 225 area. And And if we get a rejection here, we could be dipping back down, so give it a little bit more time. So watch that very carefully. For the IWM Russell 2000, we have this gap to fill down here. We're looking for a push basically for 242. If we get a rejection just under 242, we could be dipping back down to 240. If that fails us, we're looking for 238. So there's a risk of it coming back down if we don't hold 240. Just keep that in mind, guys. We have previous resistance becoming support on that gap fill around 238. For coin is dipping a bit. With Bitcoin, we need to reclaim 320. Otherwise, it's at risk of coming back down to 300 or below. Amazon has been pushing a bit. It could be pushing for about 210. We'll see if we get a rejection off 210 to come back down to 205 or not. Meta could push a little bit higher for basically 588 to 590, and we'll see if we get a rejection off that area or not, because we are making lower highs on Meta like this. So we'll see if we get a rejection. It could push a little bit more, though, so look for 588 to 590. Microsoft looks a little bit weaker, could be dipping back down to about that 416 area. And then last but not least, we have Google, which has kind of like a double top right now. This could signify some downside as well. So with this double top, we'll see if we reclaim 183 or not. There is that possible cup and handle. But one thing that's worth mentioning is that we have this resistance up here. So could we dip a little bit more again to form a double bottom for the handle? It is starting to show signs it might dip a little bit here. So it could actually retest 180 despite this potential pattern because of what technical analysis shows us alone. I'm not talking about just like patterns. I'm referring to more like a technical basis. The VIX, what I find interesting is the VIX is trying to push here on the 4-hour time frame. It loves to bounce between 14 and 15 historically, so there is a chance that that is what's essentially happening to the VIX so far, as there's some buyers trying to defend it. So that being said, guys, what do I see for the market? The market is showing some signs of slowdown. It is going to try to push upon open, so be prepared for that little push, but that could just be a liquidity grab before they start turning things over. So just keep that in mind, guys. Make sure you watch those levels very, very closely and very, very carefully. We could push a bit, and then we'll see what kind of like reaction we get at least from there. So it's very important to just keep that in mind, especially as we end up developing as time goes on. So with that being said, guys, I just want to say I really appreciate you guys so much for listening. Make sure you watch your levels very carefully, and we'll see what kind of reactions we end up getting. And with these potential pushes that are coming, we will see how the reactions end up going. All right, so watch your levels, do what you have to do, and just don't forget that Tesla, of all things, might be a little bit weaker. Tesla's not doing too bad though. It is due to pull back a little bit after so much upside, but it's going to be bouncing later on. So just keep that in mind. This is not a crash for Tesla, just a small dip, and there's going to be a big bounce coming later on nonetheless. All right, so thank you for listening. I'll see you guys very soon. The next one, hopefully in just a couple of hours. Until then, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys for another update very soon. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, and peace out.